There's a question I've heard whispered more times than I can count. Never loudly, never in public, but always with a trace of hesitation, often in a quiet exam room, or buried in the 3 a.m. search history of a man who just wants to know what's happening to his body. It's a question laced with shame, confusion, and more misinformation than most people realize. Dr. Kapoor, is it bad if I masturbate every day? And behind that question lives another, am I hurting myself? Am I making things worse? Especially when it comes to something as serious, as quietly feared, as prostate health. You've probably seen the articles, heard the rumors, that too much release causes damage, that it wears out the prostate, that it triggers inflammation, even cancer. It's terrifying when you don't know what to believe, and even more so when no one's willing to talk about it honestly. But that's why we're here. I want to talk to you, not just as a doctor, but as someone who's spent over 30 years walking alongside men like you. Men in their 60s, 70s, 80s, strong, caring, intelligent men who've simply never been given real answers. Today, we're going to set the record straight, and I think what you're about to learn will surprise you, because the truth is not just different from what you've heard, it's better, much better. So if you've been worried, uncertain, or even carrying quiet guilt about your private routines, I want you to stay with me. We're going to look at the science, the stories, and most importantly, the truth behind this question. And by the end of this video, my hope is that you'll walk away with something far more valuable than information. You'll walk away with peace of mind. Let's begin. 1. Meet the prostate's real role. Before we can understand how something affects your body, we need to understand what it's affecting. So let's take a moment to meet the real star of this story, the prostate. Now, I know it's not something most men think about on a daily basis. You can't see it. You don't feel it until something goes wrong. And for most of your life, you probably didn't give it much attention. But after 60, that changes. Quietly, steadily, the prostate starts to make itself known. And for many men, that comes with fear. Fear of cancer, fear of losing control, fear of not being who they used to be. But here's the thing, you deserve to understand what's happening, not through myths or guesswork, but with real clarity. The prostate is a small gland, about the size of a walnut, tucked just below your bladder and wrapped gently around your urethra, the tube that carries urine and semen out of your body. It's not just sitting there idly. It has an incredibly important job, producing the seminal fluid that nourishes and transports your sperm. In many ways, it's the unsung hero of male reproductive health. But as we age, that little gland becomes more vulnerable. It can swell, it can inflame, and in some cases, it can develop abnormal cells that turn into something far more serious. And because of where it's located, even a little bit of swelling can cause frustrating symptoms, frequent urination, weak stream, interrupted sleep. Maybe you've felt them already. Maybe you've blamed it on coffee, or aging, or just getting older. But the truth is, when your prostate starts sending signals, it's asking for care. Not panic, not shame, just attention. And yet, in the middle of all that, many men are being told that masturbation, something deeply personal, often private, is somehow a risk to this delicate gland, that it's dangerous, that it's selfish, that it's the reason their prostate might be acting up. But where did that idea come from? Often, it's passed down through hushed conversations, online forums, locker room whispers, or half-truths buried in old research. You might have heard that frequent ejaculation wears out the prostate, causes inflammation, even increases cancer risk. And because prostate cancer is one of the most common cancers among men, those warnings stick, they echo, they carry weight. But that's why we're here, because those warnings, for all their good intentions, may be rooted in fear more than fact. I've had patients sit across from me, smart, thoughtful men, who carry this quiet dread about whether something they've done alone in the privacy of their own homes is hurting them. And I want to say, right here and now, you don't deserve to live in that fear. Not when the truth is far more compassionate and far more hopeful than you've been led to believe. Let's keep going. 2. The Harvard study that changed everything. Now, here's where the story takes a remarkable turn, one that I wish every man over 60 could hear without shame or hesitation. For years, all those myths and warnings about frequent ejaculation being harmful were passed around like secondhand smoke. Nobody questioned them. They just settled into our minds, into our habits, into our fear. But science, real, careful, patient science, had other plans. At one of the most respected research institutions in the world, a team of researchers decided to stop guessing. They asked the hard question, does frequent ejaculation affect prostate cancer risk? And then they did something even more powerful. They followed nearly 32,000 men for almost 2 decades. That's not hearsay. That's not speculation. That's real data from real lives. And what they found, I'll be honest, it surprised even me when I first read it, because it didn't just challenge the old beliefs, it shattered them. It rewrote the narrative entirely. Men who ejaculated more frequently, 21 times or more per month, had up to a 33% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to men who ejaculated only 4 to 7 times per month. Let me repeat that, because you may not have ever heard this before. More frequent ejaculation was associated with a significantly reduced risk of prostate cancer. Not damage, not harm, not risk, protection. Gentle, natural, deeply human protection from one of the most feared diseases men face as they age. And this wasn't a fluke. A major Australian study backed it up with almost identical conclusions. These findings didn't come from a pharmaceutical company. They came from watching the quiet rhythms of thousands of men's lives and discovering that something so ordinary, something so personal, might actually be one of the most powerful ways to safeguard the prostate. Imagine that. Imagine that the thing you were taught to feel embarrassed about or to avoid could instead be something your body quietly needed, something it welcomed, something that supported, not sabotaged, your long-term health. I remember sharing this research with a patient of mine, Mr. Langston, a retired mechanic in his early 70s. He sat in my office, wide-eyed, after spending years worrying that his habits were hurting him. "Are you telling me," he asked slowly, "that I wasn't damaging anything all this time?" I nodded. "Not only that," I said, "you might have been helping yourself all along." The look on his face, it was something I'll never forget. It wasn't just relief. It was the beginning of letting go, of guilt, of fear, of all the weight he'd been carrying silently. That's what I want for you too. Not just the facts, but the freedom that comes with them. Because once we understand the truth, we can start to live with more kindness, more confidence, and less shame. And if that's possible from something so simple, so human, well, maybe it's time we stop whispering about it and start honoring it instead. 3. Why ejaculation protects your prostate. Now, you might be wondering, how could something as simple as ejaculation offer such powerful protection for the prostate? How can something we've been told to be cautious about turn out to be one of the most natural defenders of men's health? That's the beauty of the body, especially as it ages. It's not broken. It's not failing. It's just asking us to understand it better. And when we do, we start to see how even the most private parts of our lives can hold the keys to long-term vitality. There are a few theories, and they all make sense when you look closely. The first one has to do with something researchers call the prostate stagnation hypothesis. Think of your prostate like a set of small, intricate pipes. Those pipes carry fluid, seminal fluid, and that fluid is meant to move. When it doesn't, when it sits idle for too long, the body doesn't quite know what to do with it. Old cells, built-up proteins, even tiny amounts of environmental toxins or potential carcinogens can accumulate. But when you ejaculate, whether through sex or masturbation, you're essentially flushing those pipes. You're clearing out the system, keeping things flowing, preventing stagnation that could lead to inflammation or abnormal cell changes over time. It's not indulgence, it's maintenance, it's hygiene for your inner plumbing. The second idea is about cellular turnover. Every cell in your body has a lifespan, and every time a cell replicates, there's a chance, however small, that something can go wrong. Over time, those small errors can accumulate. Frequent ejaculation might help by prompting your body to refresh those cells more often. It's like asking your prostate to renew itself, replacing old or damaged cells before they become a problem. It's quiet work happening in the background, but it matters. And then there's the role of stress. I cannot overstate how damaging chronic stress is to the aging male body. It raises inflammation, disrupts hormone levels, and wears down your heart, your nerves, your sleep. But when you climax, again, whether with a partner or on your own, your body releases a cascade of feel-good hormones like dopamine and oxytocin. Your heart rate steadies, your muscles relax, your brain lets go. Over time, that release helps regulate the very systems that keep your prostate and your whole body in balance. It's not about lust, it's about healing. So when we talk about frequent ejaculation as something that supports your prostate, we're talking about more than pleasure. We're talking about blood flow, about detoxification, about stress regulation. We're talking about protecting the intricate systems that keep you healthy, confident, and connected to yourself and to others. This isn't about promoting a habit, it's about understanding a function. One that your body was designed to perform, and one that it continues to benefit from, even and especially as you age. You're not broken, you're not too old. You're still wired for connection, still capable of renewal, and your prostate, that small but mighty gland, is responding to every choice you make, every act of care, every decision to honor what your body needs, not with fear, but with trust. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of real change. 4. When symptoms disrupt your life. I know for many of you, this conversation isn't just about preventing something down the line. It's not only about statistics or theories or future risk. It's about right now. It's about what's already happening in your daily life that you may be too tired, too frustrated, or too discouraged to even bring up anymore. I see it all the time. The man who once prided himself on a strong, reliable body, now waking up 3, 4, even 5 times a night to use the bathroom. The man who no longer feels empty after urinating, constantly checking, wondering why it still feels like there's more left. The man whose stream has weakened so much that he hesitates before leaving the house, just in case he's too far from a restroom. And maybe that man is you. These symptoms, though common, can feel quietly devastating. They chip away at your sense of independence, at your ease, at your confidence, and worst of all, they often make you feel older than you are. That's something I hear again and again. Dr. Kapoor, I just don't feel like myself anymore. And I believe you. These aren't small nuisances. They're disruptions to your rhythm, your rest, your relationships. And that's exactly why I want to talk to you about something that might sound too simple to be real, but could change everything. There's a short, gentle bedtime practice I often recommend to my patients, especially those who are feeling this slow erosion of comfort and control. It's not a supplement or a prescription. It's a 15-second ritual rooted in calming the bladder's overstimulated signals, relaxing the nervous system, and supporting the prostate's natural rhythm. It's not about forcing your body to perform. It's about inviting it to reset, to soothe, to let go. I've seen it bring relief in ways that medication alone often can't. It doesn't just treat symptoms, it addresses the irritation, the congestion, the communication between the brain and the bladder that gets scrambled as we age. Mr. Everett, a former client of mine in his late 60s, used to dread bedtime, not because he couldn't sleep, but because he knew he wouldn't stay asleep. It's like my bladder had a mind of its own, he told me. Even when it was empty, it kept ringing the alarm. But after just a week of this calming nighttime practice, the change was remarkable. Not perfect, not instant, but enough that he started waking up rested and hopeful. And hope, for many of us, is the first step back toward healing. So if you're feeling worn down by the constant disruptions, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not powerless. Relief doesn't have to come in a bottle. Sometimes it comes in a moment of quiet, a breath, a gentle cue to the body that says, "You're safe now, you can rest." And when your body listens, when it finally begins to relax, everything else starts to change too. We'll talk more about that next. But for now, just know this: your comfort matters, your rest matters, and even small changes can open the door to a much better life. 5. Not a cure-all, but it helps. By now you might be thinking, well, Dr. Kapoor, this all sounds incredible, but is it really that simple? Can frequent ejaculation really protect me from prostate cancer, fix my symptoms, and restore my sense of self? And my answer to you, as always, is this: it's powerful, yes, but no, it's not a magic bullet. It's not a cure-all. It's a part of the story, not the whole story. And you deserve the whole truth, not just the part that feels good to hear. Because while the science on ejaculation and prostate health is solid, hopeful, even, it's important to understand what that research really tells us. The Harvard study we talked about earlier showed a clear correlation, not direct causation. That means the men who ejaculated more frequently had lower rates of prostate cancer, but it doesn't mean ejaculation alone was the reason. There could be other factors at play, and likely are. These men might have also been more physically active, had better diets, lower stress levels, or more regular health care. All of those things matter too. So I don't want you walking away from this video thinking that more sex or masturbation alone is the answer. It's not, but it's part of the answer, and that's still incredibly meaningful. I think of it like a toolbox. If your prostate health is the project, then ejaculation is one of the tools. But so is your diet. So is exercise. So are your annual checkups and your conversations with your doctor. So is the way you manage stress and the quality of sleep you give yourself each night. One tool doesn't build the house, but try building it without that one, and you'll feel the gap. What I want to give you today is the understanding that your private choices, the ones you make when no one's watching, actually do matter. They count. And when they're done with intention, not out of guilt or habit or escapism, They become a form of care. I've worked with men who thought they were doing everything right, taking the supplements, going for walks, staying engaged with life, and yet they still felt off, tired, flat, disconnected. And sometimes what was missing wasn't a medicine or a new routine. Sometimes it was that quiet, unspoken connection to their own body, that moment of release, that signal to the nervous system that said, "I'm still here, I still feel, I still matter." And no study in the world can fully measure what that moment does for a man's dignity, his hormones, his vitality. So, yes, this is just one piece of the puzzle, but it's a real piece, and when it's paired with other small, thoughtful habits, it can absolutely make a difference in how you feel each day, how you sleep, how you love, and how you carry yourself through the years ahead. This isn't about perfection, it's about participation, and you're already doing that just by being here, by listening, by caring. That matters more than you know. 6. What your prostate really needs. So let's take a step back together. Let's look at the big picture, because your health, your real, full, lasting health, isn't built on one act or one decision. It's built on layers, on rhythm, on how all the parts of your life begin to work together. And yes, we've talked about how frequent ejaculation can be one of those supportive, healing layers. But now I want to show you how it fits into something even bigger, because protecting your prostate, feeling better in your body, aging with strength and confidence, it doesn't come from doing just one thing. It comes from giving your body what it's been quietly asking for all along. Let's start with the simplest piece, what you eat. I've seen remarkable change in men who simply began including more of the right foods in their daily meals. Tomatoes, watermelon, grapefruit, these foods are rich in lycopene, a compound that seems to play a powerful role in prostate health. And it's not just about fruits. Leafy greens, nuts, fatty fish like salmon. These bring in omega-3s and antioxidants that reduce inflammation, support blood flow, and nourish your cells from the inside out. You don't need a perfect diet, but your prostate notices when you trade a heavy processed dinner for something lighter, cleaner, more colorful. It pays attention when you feed it what it needs to stay calm and balanced. Then there's movement, and I don't mean punishing workouts or running marathons. I'm talking about 30 minutes of walking, some light stretching, maybe a swim or a slow bike ride. Activity boosts circulation. It keeps your weight in check, and it helps your body regulate hormones, flush out toxins, and stay alert. For men over 60, regular movement isn't just good for your heart. It's a quiet gift to your prostate. It says, "I still care about keeping things flowing," and that message echoes deeper than you think. Of course, there's something else that often gets overlooked, something I never let my patients ignore. Screenings, the PSA blood test, and when appropriate, a digital rectal exam. I know these can be uncomfortable, even intimidating, but they save lives. Early detection gives you options. It gives you peace of mind. And the earlier we catch anything unusual, the easier it is to manage it. I've had so many men tell me, "Dr. Kapoor, I wish I hadn't waited so long." Please don't let that be you. You see, your body isn't asking for heroics. It's asking for consistency, for kindness, for attention. Ejaculation, yes, is part of that. But so is what you eat, how you move, how you rest, and how you listen. Your prostate doesn't need perfection. It needs presence. It needs you to show up with small, thoughtful choices that say, "I still value you. I still want you to work well. I still believe in what's possible." And when you live that way, with intention and care, your health begins to shift, quietly, steadily, powerfully, and so often for the better. So let's return to the question we began with, the one whispered in quiet corners, typed into late-night search bars, and tucked beneath years of doubt. What happens if you masturbate every day? The truth, now that we've walked through the science and the heart of it, is far more hopeful than most men ever hear. It doesn't ruin your body. It doesn't damage your prostate. In fact, it may be one of the gentlest, most natural ways to protect yourself as you age. Not because it's magical, but because it honors your biology. It clears the pipes. It soothes your nervous system. It supports your hormonal rhythm. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds both your body and your mind, you are still here, still alive, still worthy of care, of release, of peace. And that, to me, is a far more powerful answer than fear ever offered. One you can carry forward with confidence, not shame. If something in this video spoke to you, even softly, I hope you'll take a moment to reflect. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, or simply say hello. And if this felt helpful, pass it on to someone who might need it. You're not alone, and it's never too late to begin again.